I had always imagined suburban life as quiet and predictable. A place where the loudest noise came from sprinklers or kids on bikes. That illusion shattered the afternoon my kitchen window became airborne. It spun past me like a flying plate, trailed by an orange blossom of fire. The blast made a noise so deep and strange it seemed to fold my eardrums inside out. A rolling whoosh, then the crack of splintering beams, followed by the delicate sound of my grandmother's china turning into a glittering shower across the lawn. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed toward Juniper Trace, the cul-de-sac I'd moved to for serene living. Across the street, the president of our homeowners association stood frozen. She wore her usual white visor, her pearls, and the HOA logo polo she had embroidered herself. In one trembling hand she clutched a drone controller. Her lips moved soundlessly, shaping the words, "That wasn't me." But the evidence told another story. The drone, still warm and guilty, was jammed into my ruptured gas line like a mechanical woodpecker. Half my house was simply gone. The roof peeled back like a sardine tin. My living room was now an unwanted patio. Her name was Beatrice Klein, self-appointed Falcon of Order. My name is Caleb Raw. I'm a quiet software engineer, who's allergic to block parties, and actually reads terms of service for fun. I had chosen Juniper Trace in Lake Arden, because the brochure showed walking trails shaped like a question mark. The irony was lost on me at the time. My yard was my sanctuary, low-water native plants I'd researched for months, a modest grill that turned out adequate burgers, and a mailbox nobody disliked, until Beatrice decided it violated something. She dressed every day like a tennis umpire, who'd lost the chair but kept the whistle. White visor, crisp khaki shorts with knife-edge creases, clipboard fused to her left hand. I wanted to mow in peace, she wanted to inventory my soul. Her campaign began with suggestions. Rocks I'd arranged around my flower bed were labeled unauthorized garden stones. Then she measured my fence gaps with calipers she carried in a holster. After that came my garage door color, a taupe she called morally ambiguous. She even carried a Pantone color wheel to accuse people of off-brand paint choices. Each week brought a new invented rule. Then came the surveillance. A small quadcopter with HOA stickers began hovering over my property like a hummingbird subpoena. It filmed my recycling to see if I sorted right. It recorded my dog, a pacifist golden retriever named Chuck, in hopes of catching unauthorized barking. It even documented my attempts at grilled chicken, which she claimed produced smoke levels exceeding community standards she had written that morning. I once caught her crouched behind my hedge, scribbling about non-compliant wind chimes. When I confronted her, she sniffed and said she was conducting an official inspection of potentially rebellious garden features. She had a decibel meter app and recorded my chimes for 17 minutes, waiting for them to cross her arbitrary limit. She photographed my welcome mat for being at a psychologically aggressive angle. She measured my garden gnome with a laser level, insisting it violated an ordinance no one had heard of. Fines fell like coupons from hell. $25 for grouse 2 inches over regulation, $50 for a basketball hoop visible from the street, $75 for bird feeders attracting non-approved species. When I appealed, she lost the paperwork and posted a bulletin titled "Neighbors Who Do Not Care About Property Values." Guess whose bathrobe photo graced the cover? The harassment grew weekly. At 6 a.m. Saturdays, she'd measure my lawn with a ruler, flash snapping. She photographed my trash bins from 17 angles and built a PowerPoint on optimal bin placement. She sent certified letters about a spiderweb in my porch light as evidence of negligent maintenance, quoting dubious blogs about property devaluation. Her husband Roger sometimes appeared behind her, a hollow-eyed man who had surrendered long ago. When she wasn't looking, he mouthed sorry, before retreating to his garage, rumored to house a mini-fridge and a single recliner where he sat for hours contemplating his life choices. The rest of the board were equally cowed. Janet, who only nodded, Tom, who doodled at meetings, Margaret, who had perfected "Yes, dear" in 37 tones. The day of the explosion, Beatrice launched her upgraded spy drone, a carbon frame racer with FPV goggles and a lens that could read license plates from 300 feet. It was gear you'd expect from special forces, not a neighborhood volunteer. She had spent $4,000 of HOA funds on it, calling it essential infrastructure. She stood in her driveway, wearing the goggles, a suburban cyborg piloting her machine with aggressive precision. She dove low along my side yard, chasing a shot of my allegedly scandalous compost bin. The drone screamed as she pushed it beyond safe speeds. At exactly 2:47 p.m. according to my security camera, it clipped the gas meter, sheared the line with its carbon blades, and turned a whisper of escaping gas into a roar. The spark from my water heater did the rest. The blast lifted my roof 6 feet before dropping it back at a bizarre angle. My kitchen became my backyard. My backyard became a debris field. My neighbor's cat, once asleep on my deck, achieved low Earth orbit and splashed down in the community pool 3 houses away. Fire trucks arrived first, 6 of them charging into our quiet cul-de-sac like an invasion. The fire marshal followed in a white SUV with enough lights to be seen from space.
Then came a man in an ATF windbreaker like a very serious parade finale, plus state investigators and 2 insurance adjusters who looked like they wanted to disappear. Beatrice tried to hide the controller in her tennis bag, but Officer Martinez had already seen everything. His body cam caught her saying nervously she didn't intend to surveil the gas infrastructure, which is not the absolution she imagined. The fire marshal photographed the drone still lodged in my gas line while she babbled about documenting code violations for the good of the community. I had doorbell footage of the drone's kamikaze descent in glorious HD. Neighbors emerged with their own evidence like villagers with pitchforks. The Johnsons produced texts where Beatrice bragged about proactive aerial enforcement and plans for thermal imaging. The Patels had video of the drone hovering outside their bedroom window at 11 p.m. The Washingtons had emails of her proposing GPS trackers for trash cans. Subpoenaed HOA servers coughed up her newsletter drafts titled Operation Compliance Guys plus line items showing purchases of propellers, batteries, a GoPro, and something called a tactical surveillance package from a site that surely put her on a government watch list. The fire marshal wrote gross negligence in letters so big they filled 3 lines. The ATF man began a thicker report citing federal statutes I had to Google. An FAA investigator knocked on Beatrice's door with a badge and a look that could curdle milk. For the first time ever, she didn't answer with a fine. Her clipboard shook as she stammered about not knowing drones required registration or that flying them into gas lines might be a federal crime. My insurance adjuster Donna, a veteran of 30 years, sided with me instantly after watching the footage. She actually laughed at the HOA stickers on the drone. Beatrice's adjuster glanced at the receipts, the flight log of 317 authorized missions, and the crater where my kitchen had been, then evaporated into actuarial mist, leaving only a business card and a whispered good luck. The HOA board called an emergency meeting that evening. For the first time in living memory, they did not let Beatrice hold the microphone. She brought her own portable PA system, but someone unplugged it. She tried a megaphone, they took that too. Evidence against her piled up like a paper avalanche ready to bury the board. Receipts showed she had used the HOA credit card without approval, technically embezzlement, to buy her fleet of propellers, batteries and cameras. The flight logs revealed hundreds of surveillance sorties at all hours, targeting anyone who had ever questioned her authority. Her emails described psychological operations through strategic finds. She even created a color-coded spreadsheet ranking each homeowner's threat level to her power. I was coded red with 3 exclamation points. The meeting looked more like a courtroom than a community center. Folding chairs formed rows beneath a ceiling stained by old coffee and broken dreams. At the front stood the FAA investigator and the ATF agent like disappointed parents at a school assembly. They laid out a buffet of potential charges: reckless endangerment, criminal mischief, destruction of property, operating an unregistered aircraft, violating controlled airspace, and a tower of aviation violations taller than the HOA covenant binder. "What about the non-compliant compost?" she asked in a strangled voice. The room hissed. Neighbors who had endured her reign for years now spoke freely. Mrs. Chen described how Beatrice had fined her for culturally inappropriate vegetables. Mr. Thompson told of her attempt to ban his veterans flag as unnecessarily patriotic. A young couple explained how she had measured their baby stroller to ensure it met HOA storage specifications. Each story was another brick in the wall closing around her. Her face cycled through red, purple, then a pale gray suggesting she might faint. Gerald the treasurer, a nervous man bullied into his role, announced that the insurer had denied the HOA's claim because Beatrice used funds for unauthorized surveillance. The board faced a special assessment of $300,000 unless they filed claims against her personally and removed her immediately. 30 hands shot up like prairie dogs sensing danger. The vote tally was 42-0 with 1 abstention. Roger, her husband, found the ceiling fascinating, studying acoustic tiles as if they contained the meaning of life. The FAA agent collected the wrecked drone, and with my favorite flourish peeled off the HOA stickers using 2 crisp federal fingernails while maintaining eye contact with Beatrice. That night the criminal charges came down like thunder on a clear day. The prosecutor assigned Sarah Martinez seemed personally offended by the misuse of drone technology, and had probably been waiting her whole career for a case this absurd. She prepared exhibits labeled A through QQ, including a scale model of my destroyed kitchen to demonstrate the drone's flight path. Beatrice's lawyer looked like a man regretting every life choice that led him to this courtroom. He argued she was an overzealous volunteer protecting property values. The judge, Honorable James Chen, answered with a tone that could freeze lava. Operating an unregistered surveillance drone that destroys a home is not volunteer work. It is domestic terrorism with a side of stupidity. The trial lasted 3 days. Witnesses included every neighbor she had fined, cited, or spied on. The Hendersons produced a binder of fines totaling $12,000 for offenses ranging from unauthorized happiness during quiet hours to aggressive display of holiday spirit. Jurors deliberated for only 2 hours, though one later admitted they had decided guilt in the first 10 minutes and spent the rest swapping HOA horror stories. The verdict: guilty on all counts. Judge Chen delivered the sentence with the gravity of a thunderclap. His voice echoed as he read each penalty. 2 years of probation during which she may not hold any position of authority, including but not limited to HOA board member, crossing guard, or even grocery store line leader. 1,000 hours of community service specifically serving the neighborhood she had tormented, mowing lawns, trimming hedges, and cleaning porches for every household she had ever fined for grass violations. A fine of $37,000 paid in monthly installments that would take her exactly as long to pay off as it would take me to rebuild my house. He also issued a no-fly order banning her from anything with a propeller, including the annual neighborhood fan charity ride, remote control toys, and even those little handheld fans at theme parks. She cried real tears, her perfect makeup streaking down her cheeks. The court placed a lien on her home to cover my rebuild costs of $180,000. The HOA formally barred her from any board position until the year 2099, which the secretary underlined in Sharpie on the resolution and then framed for emphasis. Beatrice stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish pulled from water, as the judge's gavel came down with a final satisfying crack. Around me, neighbors exhaled a collective sigh they had been holding for years. The reign of clipboard tyranny was over. In the months that followed, the cul-de-sac began to heal. Without the constant drone of fines, literal and figurative, people planted flowers they actually liked. Flags reappeared, holiday lights twinkled, and Chuck the golden retriever napped in the yard without fear of being documented. Roger quietly sold the house and moved away, leaving only the echo of a man once trapped in HOA purgatory.
My rebuild took time, but the insurance payout and court-ordered restitution covered most of it. The new kitchen has bigger windows, stronger walls, and a reinforced gas line that could probably survive a meteor. I sometimes catch myself glancing up, half expecting a buzzing quadcopter to appear. But the sky is clear now. The HOA board, humbled and leaderless, rewrote its bylaws with actual community input. They limited surveillance to publicly posted cameras, capped fines, and added a clause requiring board members to undergo ethics training before touching the budget. For the first time, meetings ended in under an hour, and without shouting. As for me, I've become an accidental folk hero. Neighbors bring me pies and thank you notes. A local news station ran a segment titled, "How a Drone Took Down a Dictator HOA President," complete with slow-motion footage of my exploding roof. My inbox filled with stories from other neighborhoods about their own petty tyrants. Apparently, my nightmare gave people hope. On quiet evenings, I walked the question-mark-shaped trail that once lured me here, Chuck trotting beside me. The air smells of fresh paint and cut grass instead of singed lumber. Children's laughter echoes where once there were only clipboards and citations. Sometimes I pass Beatrice in her court-ordered orange vest, pulling weeds along the community entrance sign. She keeps her eyes down, no visor, no pearls, no clipboard, just a woman paying off the debt of her own obsession. I nod politely. She mumbles something like an apology, but the wind carries it away. Chuck wags his tail anyway. We keep walking, the curve of the trail leading us forward. For the first time since moving to Juniper Trace, I actually feel serene, not because the brochure promised it, but because the neighborhood finally earned it. The sky overhead is empty, and in that silence, there is a kind of freedom no set of covenants can regulate.